Okay, so this video we're comparing high-end Galaxy Book Pro 360 versus the MacBook Pro high-end model. Okay, so basically it's Team Samsung versus Team Apple again. Fine, you know. So obviously we're gonna compare the Galaxy Book Pro 360 high-end to the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which has Apple's own Intel version. So yep. So first let's start with the size. 13-inch on the MacBook Pro side, and because it's high end, we're gonna compare it with the 15 and 15.6-inch ones. But there is also a 13.3-inch model too. So basically, the processor on the high end side over here for the Galaxy Book Pro 360 is the Intel Core i7. Same, but for the MacBook Pro, it's the M1, right? For the RAM, both sides have maximum of 16 gigs of RAM. For storage, the Galaxy Book Pro 360 maxes out at 1 TB SSD, while the MacBook Pro maxes out at 2 terabytes. So this is where the MacBook Pro advantage is, but then there are downsides as well. Now we're gonna compare the specs, alright? So for the specs, um, see, when I'm comparing a laptop, it's a whole different story. Uh, it's not like comparing a phone. There are many things to consider except specs in laptops, right? Like how big is it, or you know, how easy it is to hold, or how good does it feel in your hand. All that stuff matters when it comes to laptops more than when it comes to phones, because phones are designed to be comfortable in the palm of your hand from the start. So yeah, okay. So first, uh, obviously on the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro side, we have the Intel Core i7 1165G7 processor with 2.8 gigahertz up with turbo speed up to 4.7 gigahertz. Okay, seen some competition. 4.7 gigahertz is a lot. All right, and on the Apple side, we have the M1 chip, which is an 8-core CPU with an 8-core GPU and a 16-core neural engine. For the display, basically the display we have on the Apple side, we have about 2560 into 1600 with 227 pixels per inch, while on the Samsung side, we have a 1920 into 1080, which is touchscreen, yes, and the brightness is maximum of 370 nits. So basically the aspect ratio of the okay, so wait, so the MacBook Pro has has brightness of 500 nits, while the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360 has a brightness of 370 nits, which is uh, a difference, but unless you're gonna use it outside, which won't be happening soon because of COVID, I don't think it'll matter. But you would like to have the brightness. And the resolution for the Samsung side, the Galaxy Book Pro 360 is 1920 into 1080, while the MacBook Pro has 2560 into 1600. Okay, fine. But in terms of pixels, the MacBook Pro has more pixels. But the thing is, the Galaxy Book Pro 360 is touchscreen, and the screen of the Galaxy Book Pro 360 is AMOLED. Yeah, alright. So that's basically where it matters. And for battery life, we have. about 63 watts. All right, 63. Wait a second. So for the battery and power, we have about 63 watts, and watt hours is 63, and basically the this is gonna be wow. Basically, on the specs, it really doesn't say much except that, but the MacBook Pro has 17 hours of wireless web, 20 hours of of movie playback, and a built-in 558.2 watt hour lithium polymer battery with a 61 watt USB-C power adapter. Okay, so basically, watt hours for the Galaxy Book Pro side is 63 watts, while watt hours on the MacBook Pro side is 58.2. Very slight difference there, but I'm sure that the M1 is way more efficient. So yeah. Also in the adapter, the Galaxy Book Pro 360 comes with a 65 watt power adapter, while the MacBook Pro 13-inch comes with a 61 watt power adapter. It's basically again minor difference. And this time even the Galaxy Book Pro 360 has the basically fingerprint reader. And keyboards. Uh, yep. Keyboards, there's not really much to talk for the keyboard or the the trackpad, but basically, okay, I'm still gonna say it, right? I'm still gonna compare. So basically, the keyboard and trackpad on the MacBook Pro 13-inch is basically touch bar, touch ID sensor, and an ambient light sensor with the force touch trackpad. So basically, the trackpad on the MacBook Pro is better and larger, but and I think it's also backlit, while even the Galaxy Book Pro 360 has backlit ones. So yeah. Anyways, so for the camera, you know, since everything's happening right now, online cameras is important. So both of them over here have 720p FaceTime 720p HD cameras, and speakers. I think the MacBook Pro is better, has better speakers, but I'm still gonna compare them. Wow, this is getting. So on the MacBook Pro 13-inch side, we have stereo speakers with high dynamic range, wide stereo sound, support for Dolby Atmos playback, studio quality 3 mic array with signal to noise ratio and directional beamforming with 3.5 mm whatever. Okay, Apple's written too much in the spec sheet, which I noted down anyways. Okay. While the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360 has AKG stereo speakers, uh, which is good. It's really good. But personally, I think that MacBook Pro 13 inches speaker is better. But the one thing the Galaxy Book Pro 360 is better at is that the screen's AMOLED and it's touchscreen. So that's where I personally think that the Galaxy Book Pro wins in the screen. But yes, now if we go and see how much expensive we can make this stuff, let's see, just for fun. Okay, you can make it as expensive as oh god, $1,500 on the Galaxy Book Pro 360, while on the MacBook side, you can make it up to as expensive as let's see, basically 16 gigs of memory, 2 terabytes of storage. So on the MacBook Pro side, you can make it up to as expensive as 1,42,900, and while on the Galaxy Book Pro 360, you can make it as expensive as to $1,500. I'm just gonna convert that in Indian rupees right now. $1,500 in rupees. Basically, that's 1,10,385. Okay, Apple's the more expensive one, which it was kind of expected, but fine. So yeah, so basically, okay, the final point. You should get a MacBook if you want a good speaker system, if you don't care about touchscreen, and if you just want the Mac OS. You should get the Galaxy Book Pro 360 if you want a touchscreen, if you want a good or maybe even better keyboard which is backlit. Same, even the MacBook Pro is backlit, but fine. And you should also get the Galaxy Book Pro 360 if you trust Intel, or if you want it. Yeah, if you don't trust the M1 and want the Intel and don't want to buy a Mac, then you should go for the Galaxy Book Pro 360. But if you don't trust M1, you can still buy an Intel MacBook, but fine. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Techxpense for the tech savvy.